Okay, let's boot up the game. Got a little bit of stuff to show you this time. You may notice things in the background are a little bit different. So, let's load this up. I may have to add loading screens. Right, so you see we have a bit more stuff going on in the background. Not on this side, unfortunately. We haven't found... I haven't found a prefab yet that really will fit this area. But I may just settle for a basic prefab, just kind of, or a model, just to kind of fill the space up, just so we have something until we come up with something ourselves. But yeah, so I spent a couple of hours today downloading assets and plucking them and kind of gathering kind of things that we would need for this to kind of complete the scene a bit more on the outside. So I got a lot of buildings, a lot of structures, and kind of filled the scene and tried to hide the outside of the skybox as much as possible. We've still got a few gaps here and there, which I could plug up with some holes, but overall I think we've done not too bad of a job. Yeah, obviously there's that endless hole there, and of course, you know, what's going on over there. So yeah, so we have a lot of structures. I also got hold of some basic trees to kind of scatter around. They're very low poly ones, but they kind of do the job for now. And then there are these. So you see these turrets. These are anti-air turrets. Specifically, when talking about the design initially, there was mention of two large anti-air turrets that would be defending the area against maybe ships and stuff, and you know, firing at them maybe. So what I did was I found some anti-air turrets on the store, and I've just given them a basic animation, which basically causes them to rock backwards and forwards, or sorry, rotate left and right as if they're kind of searching for targets. Yeah, and we've still got two of them, and they both animate kind of pretty much the same way. But yeah, I think they're quite cool. Let's see how they go. And then we added a lot of structures. So we have just various building prefabs and objects I found on the asset store. Some of them look great, some of them not as much, but it was more of a case of me just trying to fill the space. I'm not worrying too much about the detail, because if we're going forward, then probably we will look to replace most of these assets with our own, or ones that are completely free to kind of use for ourselves and not have to worry about, you know, like credit or maybe paying for licenses, etc. But you know, again, as a concept, I thought we could use a lot of these buildings. I've also added a few bits of details. I've had a couple of cones and stuff. They don't move at the moment, but I can probably add some rigid bodies to them. Add some traffic lights just at the kind of intersections, just to kind of add some more depth to the scene. We added the trees. We've added some like trash cans to the side here. And we've got this kind of Coke machine just kind of set here. I plan to add a few like benches and stuff on the side, because if we look at our building view, so 4 and I, our grid kind of goes to here, because if it goes further on, it goes through this kind of wall. So I figured I'd fill the edges with like benches and things that you'd find in a square, you know, and that kind of thing. So yeah, the grid down here is now relatively fixed. I just need to lower this grid by a tiny amount and it'll be all lined up. But the grid here works and it's all correct. And I believe, yeah, you can't go further than this. So like the grid is actually the playable area. And I did test it with nav meshes, so the AI that spawn in can't walk around this. So yeah, that's good. And even if they could, I would probably make like these bins obstacles or something, just so they can't path around, you know, and just force them into ways. I believe, yeah, these ones aren't quite correct, so I'm going to need to go in and check them. These are benches I tested and realized are way too small. So I need to scale this up probably by a factor of 2. But those are the kind of things you probably see around the edges just to kind of fill up that space. Yeah, so some of these are good. So like this is good, but this one isn't. So I need to shift this up a bit, you know, and get that right. But this video will actually provide me with a lot of information. I'll be able to check edges easily and kind of get a feel for what's going on. This is still the same, the holographic texture, and I'm just checking edges right now. Looks all good here. Top floor actually looks really good. Won't need to change that at all. So the middle couple will need adjusting slightly. But that's not too difficult. Yep, okay. But yeah, so you know, whilst you're kind of here and kind of you're focusing on the action, I think like the background actually kind of is doing a good job. Now, of course, this is completely empty, but when you're kind of looking around here and you know you're placing your turrets down, you know you're facing your enemies and maybe some cannons, you know maybe a flame tower and a rocket tower, you know, and kind of ready. We'll face some enemies. Get a reload going. It's actually interesting. I'm going to check if the damage applies correctly. Yes, it does. Nice. So actually, that's a good point. That's one test we didn't do before was we didn't test damage. So the assault rifle does a lot more damage than the pistol or the shotgun. And you can kind of see. Does more damage. It's interesting. The wave complete doesn't say it correctly. Interesting. Might be the maths wrong on that. Okay, I need to check that. I suspect I know what's going on there. It's not performing the math at the end of the wave. Never mind. But yeah, so coming together. I think the scene overall is coming together, even though obviously the buildings and the trees all have slightly different art styles. I think kind of through the fuzz, you kind of get an idea of what's going on and kind of the feeling we're trying to go for with the game. And yeah, hopefully things are starting to come together. You know, and once we have a bit more, I know we're going for the low poly look, but obviously technically all those buildings that are in the scene are low poly. They're just not the low poly look. So it's going to be a case of tweaking and tweaking until we find something that kind of works. But I'm pretty happy with what we've got so far. You know, it feels much more like a level now just by filling up the space around it, and it feels much more like a contained world rather than just a plane on an empty piece of space. So yeah, that's what we've got so far. We'll catch you next time.